Okay, so good morning. Let's put our hands together and let's say sadhu 3 times. We are gathered here today for the 10th session of Buddhism 101 and today we have the sort of the core of Buddhist philosophy. We have been leading up to that. We have been laying sort of stepping stones towards to that idea. And I introduced you to this idea the other day. It's called the Yadanicca Sutta. It's like a mathematical formula. It starts with, first of all, there's Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Viññāna, the 5 aggregates. And then we take first one, Rupa, or conceptual ideas, Rupa. Rupa, monks, mendicants, is impermanent. What is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering is non-self, not self. So this English translation is a very, I wouldn't say a wrong or a bad translation, but it's a very limited translation. So I'm going to take these 3 words, anicca, dukkha, anatta, on the right side of the screen. Aniccam, rupam bhikkhave aniccam. Yadaniccam, what is anicca is dukkham. What is dukkha is anattam. So that's what it says. So we are going to get down to these 3 words and try to understand what are the nuanced ideas of these 3 words which are appearing in the Pali canon. So let's take anicca, the most closest or the most famous idea for anicca is impermanence. But then it goes a little beyond impermanence, simple impermanence. There's this idea of transient nature or momentary nature of any happening, of anything. If you look into modern science, this material we have are continuously changing. They are not in a fixed state. They are changing their states. Even if you take energy, energy is always denoted as a wave form. So there's a wave form, a magnetic EMF, electromagnetic wave function. It's a wave function. So there's a continuous sort of changing flux nature to material world, the energy world. So let me call all these non-conscious related things material. Even if we classify it as energy, electricity, sound are energies in classical science, but let's put it into the material or the physical world. And what is conscious side, let's keep it as conscious based, mind based, and the non-mind based. What I mean by that is whether our mind is there or not, the materials are probably existing. Probably, I said probably. But the mind, we have an experience about the mind. So this momentary nature or the transience nature of whatever it is very apparent, and there's a beautiful etymological idea of anicca called anya. It always has the ability to transform into something else, anya. That's what it means. So anya sort of leads to the word anicca. So the best way to see this is take something like the water cycle. So we have water which evaporates from the Barry's Lake. It goes all the way to the clouds. Clouds then become snow, hail, rain. They come down. They come down and hit the Banff. They come down the creeks. Creeks become bigger ravines. Ravines become bigger rivers. Rivers become lakes. Lakes eventually flow to the oceans. So there's a system like that. There's a cycle like that. So in this cycle, if you take one point, each point is transforming to something else. A small particle of water is becoming a big chunk of ice. That ice is coming down. It's rolling down the mountain slope. It's becoming a stream. It's going to the ocean. So we find this continuous transformation of things, and each point of this transformation we can call it a name. We can call it some name. If you look at a chair or a desk, this desk, it started as a tree. Now the tree is cut down. Planks are made, treated. It is different pieces assembled, put together. Now we call it a table. Now the table sits here for some time, 10, 15 years, 20 years. Table is getting depreciated. It's thrown away to some junkyard. At that junkyard, the bacteria are working on that and it's degrading. And then eventually it becomes compost. On that compost, we grow another tree. So there's a cycle in that. And each part of this cycle is called a particular name. So the very interesting idea about this transient nature or the momentary nature is whatever the name that we call is there for some time, and that's only a momentary occurring. Now this moment is also a very tricky idea. For a snapping turtle, the entire winter is a moment because it's sleeping, it's hibernating. So this moment is not really based on the ontological time. When I say ontological time, the time can be, we can attach time to a real time occurring or a perception of time. So perception of time is not the ontological time. There are two times in the world. The time that we feel as time. If this is a very boring lecture, you will feel like on this Sunday morning I had to endure this boring lecture and it's so long. But if it's an interesting thing, the time will be so fast. It will be done in 2 minutes. So similarly, this momentariness, how much is a moment? Is it a second? Is it a millisecond? It's not really a important question. Momentariness is also very, it's not absolute. It's relative. So there's that nature with momentariness. And in this momentary nature, if we have a certainty, now things could be momentary, they are always transforming from one nature to the other nature, and during these different natures or a cluster of natures, we call it a particular name. When a child is an infant, infant is usually below 1 year roughly?
Up to 2.
Up to 2 years.
1.5 is an infant.
1.5, okay.
And it's a toddler.
Right. So I don't know all the names, but infant, toddler, little baby, teenager, young adult, middle-aged, old man. So there are different phases of life. And then during these phases, you cluster them together. And this anicca, we can understand it in different manner. Anicca is not only a physical offering or physical occurring, it is also a mental concept. When we look at a TV, this particular TV, we know that it's not that old, it's sort of new. So that idea of newness, where in that cycle where it would fit into, is a more conceptual idea. So it's not to do with the real material of that, it's conceptually how we understand that. When we look at a flower which is very fresh, we know it's in the beginning stage of the flower. And then when it's withering away, we know it's in the end stage. So that where it belongs, beginning, end, medium, has it just started or is it about to end? It's a very conceptual idea. So anicca is also a concept in our mind. So there are two things. Now there could be, so it's very obvious that everything seems to be momentary. What is a moment is a relative measure. It could be 1,000-year moment or a split-second moment. So there are moments. But during this momentary nature, is there a certainty? Now what does that mean? Certainty can be two things. The world is deterministic. World is going to anyway happen in a particular order. So that's one thing. Or the world is deterministic, but I have no absolute way of getting to know what's going to come next. So whatever it is, we would probably not know whether the world is deterministic or not. There's no real way to cross-check it, because if I'm to cross-check that the world is deterministic, I have to have the previous knowledge before it happens, right? So whether it's deterministic that way or whether it is indeterministic, there's chaotic, it's spontaneous. Regardless of that, I do not have the knowledge of all the occurrences which could happen in the future. So there's another word or another understanding of anicca, the uncertainty, the connotation of uncertainty. So it's again etymological, nicca. Nicco duo sassato aviparindama nama dhammo. Nicco means something which is certain, nicca. Anicca, if you put an A in front, it means that it's uncertain. So there's this wonderful idea, we can't really guess what's going to come. It's unpredictable, uncertain. Even if we can predict, we cannot know for sure. We can have a rough prediction. If we turn on the light somewhere, the switch somewhere, we would know that it is usually coming, the lights are going to be turned on. If we turn on the heater, we know that it's going to get warm, or the air conditioner, it's going to get cold. We have a rough idea, but we don't know for sure. We turn it on, it's not working. It happens sometimes. Yesterday with the machinery, it happened. We tried to turn it on, it didn't work. So we absolutely have no way of certainly knowing whether it's going to come or not, the outcome. But forget about the certainty. It might be transient, it might be momentary, but if it's certain, it's a better way. But we figured that it's probably not very certain, in the sense of it could be deterministic or non-deterministic. Either way, we would have no way of getting to know that. Like the Schrodinger's cats experiment. Have you heard of Schrodinger's cats? We do not know the state of that before it occurs. Until that singularity collapses, we do not know that, and then therefore it's uncertain. And it's fine to be uncertain, but is it controllable? Is it under our control? Right? Things can be uncertain but still be under our control. If you look at the other idea of anicca, it also says that things are not controllable. We can't control things 100%. If I say I can't control anything, that would be wrong, right? Because I turned on the TV today, it's working. So there is some form of a control. Influence. So let's try to analyze and see what is under our control and what is not under our control. I think we covered it during certainty class earlier, expectations class. If we try to control weather, of course there's some control of weather. People do control weather when they artificially rain seed and all that. Elon Musk might control the weather in Mars one day, probably. With the capabilities of human, there's a moderate control of weather, but we will not have the ability to control the universe. We can't control the entire galaxy. It's too big for us to control. So that external stuff are not controllable, but we have a greater control over our body compared to the external materialistic or energy world. For example, if I want to maintain this table the way I want until I die, I will try to do that. I see in Cambridge, there's this auto show with the old vehicles. They're above 50 years old, in very good condition. They try to keep it in their mint condition. All the old bicycles, tricycles and jeeps and trucks and all that, beautiful vehicle parade, they try to keep them in their mint condition. But no matter what they do, I'm sure that they are investing a lot of time on that, these old gentlemen usually. So no matter what they do, they will not be able to control the material nature. The material are going to rust away, they are going to wither away. But compared to that material, you have a greater control over your body. I can't command material to not rust, but I can command my body to do the exercise, do the walking, keep healthy. I can do sense. I can shave my face. I was actually thinking about when I shaved my head today. I can shave my head, so there's more control over my face than on the mirror. It's very funny because actually this is what happened. I noticed a spot on the mirror. I noticed a small, these rust spots on the mirror. So then it momentarily clicked me. Well, I can't control the mirror, but I can cut my face. I can shave my face. Right? So we have relatively more control over our body compared to the external world. Could be different. Sometimes I have more control over the external world than the body. Body doesn't want to do anything. But usually there's more control on this side. But more than the body, sometimes I'm completely exhausted. My body won't move, but my mind is very active. my leg is numb after seated meditation. Your leg sleeps, right? My leg doesn't want to go, but my mind is active, right? So we have more control over our mind, relatively. But then, can the mind be ever controlled to 100%?
No, you cannot control your thoughts and your feelings.
We cannot.
We don't.
There's a nature of that.
That's why we meditate.
Right? We meditate, we try to keep it under control for some time, from a split second to 10 seconds to 1 minute, 1 hour, 2 hours. But still, maybe the maximum I have kept my mind under control is around 2 hours. But that's after a lot of meditation for a very long time. If you meditate continuously for about a month, you can get to a stage where you are completely in the zone without any distraction. When I say distraction, in the mind, nothing, just in one single thing for about under 2 hours, maybe 1.5 hours. But that's it. So the moment I went there, I thought this is not liberation. It's just another state of mind. The nature of the mind is to change. The whole world is, when I say the whole world, our existential reality, outside, whatever, the nature of that is change, anicca. So with this nature, there's also a great uncontrollability. So uncontrollability is another connotation of anicca. It's not under my control. But then there's even another idea, unsatisfactoriness. Let's say for a moment the world is completely under my control. So this is coming from the Pali Canon. One day a man came and said, well, you know, Buddha, my life is perfect. My wife is very nice. At that time they would say my wife is obedient. That's exactly what he said. My wife is very obedient. It's very, like that. Back in the day, you have the wife beaters, and the husband would say, "My wife is obedient," and my children are perfect. They help me with my farming. He's a farmer, and he said, "My farm is great. The water is there. I can do my irrigation. The weather is perfect. I get sun, rain. So everything is perfect for him." But then Buddha led that conversation to something else. Even if the world is completely perfect, right? Even in a perfect world, can we be truly satisfied? No. We check this under our happiness part. Let's say that we get a hockey stick. Every time we touch the puck, it's a goal, right? It's perfect. That's what we want for the puck to go and hit a goal. Will the life be interesting then? Everything is perfect, right? So the perfect world, or the most controllable world, is also a very boring world. We do not want to go there. It's in fact this uncontrollability which keeps us entertained most of the time. So if you look at all the most happiest incidents in life, they were very unexpected. They were surprises. Only if we can plan a surprise birthday party, that person will be truly surprised and will be very happy. But if that person knew, well, there's a surprise birthday party for me, you're not that, happy. So this nature of controllability, even if we gain the 100% control of the world, we will still not be completely satisfied. Satisfactoriness. So we know that nature, but still what we are pursuing is trying to gain control over things. So there's fundamentally something wrong in the way we are doing things. We know that even if we get full control, we are not going to get 100% happy. But still, if you look at all the people, whatever they are doing is we are trying to get 100% control of the world. So we'll get back to that on the later part, anicca. So there are more than this. I just took the main few, the transient nature, the uncertainty, uncontrollability, and unsatisfactory nature, which is meant with anicca. Because Buddha has used the word anicca differently based on the different context. So anicca is not just one word of impermanence. It's a broad word. It could mean many things. Especially if you check the Pali etymology, you would find that it's like that with any word. There are many interpretations. There are many variations to that. And next, our mark of existence is dukkha. Again, dukkha, the most famous connotation is suffering. But then we saw when we covered dukkha also that it's beyond suffering. So let's try to see what we have learned. We learned the three unwholesome roots: lobha, dosa, and moha. I don't know if you can remember this. Three unwholesome roots of things. So these are the root of any thought.
Anger, greed, and delusion.
Delusion, anger, greed, and delusion. So this painting is actually coming from the Tibetan painting. It's a Tibetan painting called the three poisons of mind. Raga is another word for lobha. Raga is usually affiliated with sexual pleasures or sensual pleasures. So raga is a word. Lobha is more with greed connotation, but they could be again used interchangeably. Raga or lobha. So the rooster is denoted with raga or lobha, because I remember for some reason, I don't know why, maybe I have never really looked at the roosters. Someone who's very romantic would be called a rooster in my country, maybe because of the mating rituals they have. They display around, peacocking. The peacock, he does the peacocking to attract mate, the hens. So a rooster is associated with raga and lobha, and the snake with its vicious nature is associated with the dvesha or aversion, the negative side of that. But then these two sides are actually not very different. They are stemming from the same two sides of the coin. They are not different things. They are just two sides of it, right? We also checked that. We also looked at it during our anger, fear, etc. So on one end we looked at the happiness side of it, and then the aversion side of it. But then moha, the pig, moha is also another word for being ignorant or stupid. I don't know, pigs are always known to be a little stupid, pigs, donkeys, but I don't know why. So the pig comes under moha. But this idea of moha is a very difficult idea to understand. It's easy to understand lobha, dosa, or raga, dosa. We know what is affinity, desire, greed. We know what is anger, aversion. We know that. But the idea of moha is a very deep idea, it's a nuanced idea. An example for that is if you are to clear a forest. First you will have to cut down the bigger trees, like the biggest trees, the tallest. But once you cut down the tallest...
Moha is the origin of desire and aversion.
Correct. Moha is the origin of desire and aversion. So once you cut down the taller trees, you have the smaller shrubs. So you clear them out. But you still have a small layer of ferns and little plants. Even if you cut them down, they're still little plants, like the tiniest microscopic plants. So that's what I noticed when Heidi got me a few sickles, and then I was trying to do my rye harvesting. So you cut down the rye, which is about 3-4 feet tall, but underneath the rye there's another vegetation, right? So this idea of moha is like that. You shave off one layer, but then there's an ignorance which is much deeper, in a deeper layer. So that's the idea of moha. So we have the three poisons, we have the three unwholesome roots, but then we also have the three sensations. I covered this also in Vedana. So sukha, dukkha, and upeksha. I hope you remember these three words. So sukha, sukhi attanang pariharami, sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. It's a positive feeling. Sukha, comfort, mental comfort, physical comfort. Could be either. Sukha is a good thing. So why is it associated with raga and lobha? You can feel happy if you positively attach to something. I love the statue of Buddha. When I see Buddha, I'm happy. So this happiness, no, it's not happiness, it's this sensation of positiveness. So if you are positively attached to that, if I like the color red, when I see red, I'm happy. But if I'm negatively, don't get lost there. If I'm negatively attached to color red, when I see that, I am in the aversion mode. I don't like it.
Don't get lost in there as well.
Right.
Those are the two things that you should not get lost.
Right. So one would give you a positive feeling, a sukha feeling. The other one would give you the dukkha feeling. Now, it is very understandable why dukkha is always called suffering and pain and all that, because that's the word for pain and suffering also. So that is dukkha. But we need to understand that dukkha is a bigger subset of that dukkha. It has more meaning. But then this is the ambiguity in language. The word to mean the pain is also dukkha, right? But then there's another side of the word, sukha. Now that also falls under the bigger umbrella of the Buddhist noble truth of dukkha, right? Both of those are dukkha. I'll explain how. So the aversion is anger, hatred, all those heavy feelings, disgust. They are more on the painful side of it, mental or physical, both. So that is dukkha. And then we have the sukha. Upeksha is neither happy, neither sad. But then still underneath that, there can be the delusion.
Isn't it equanimity?
Equanimity, yeah. But then...
it's just like, just to say that it's not one, neither the other.
Right. But again, we need to be careful here. There are two things. There's a true equanimity, upeksha, tara upeksha, the true equanimity, and the equanimous looks like equanimity, but not really equanimity. I'll give you a quick example. Now the color of white in these walls is neither good or bad unless you are very attached to white, right? Or when we look at the floor, there's nothing to be we particularly don't get a positive or a negative feeling. It's just a flow, unless again you are very attached to the tile or the flooring, or if you really hate the flooring, it's usually neutral. But then if we keep exploring this nature, although it looks neutral, if we put something else, if we put grass over here in the middle of this room, then you'll be a little upset. So which means that you don't like grass, but also you sort of like this state of this flow behind your mind. It looks very neutral, but if you further magnify that thought, if you go closer, it is not that neutral. That's why I mentioned with the trees, you cut down the trees, you might think we have cleared it, but closer you go, there are smaller trees. So the same way that if we magnify this surface of the table, it might look smooth, but closer you get, it's not smooth. It's like the moon craters. It's more closer you get. So this idea of upeksha can be from where you are looking at. If you look from a mountain at a meadow far away, it looks very smooth. I have gotten into this trap. One day I wanted to do a hike through a jungle, a mountainous place, and I thought, wow, it's so flat, and let me go there. But when I went there, it's 7-8 feet tall bush,
Oh.
right? But from far away, it looks very smooth and green and very homogeneous. But then there's another way that we can again look at it. The suffering nature, it's suffering from the start. Let's take an example. The pain we have, it's very hot, very cold, I'm suffering. I'm having a throat ache, I'm having a bad flu, I'm suffering. It starts with pain anyway. But sukha, it doesn't really start with pain, it starts with a positivity. But then it has the eventuality to become a pain. I'll give you an example. This is something I heard yesterday. I know this person for some time. So she was in a very toxic relationship. It was wrong from the start. Was in a very toxic relationship, and then I know the struggles that person went through. And then she got out of that toxic relationship, and then she met another good person. So then it started really well. That person was very nice. It started 6 months ago, but it's very toxic now. So that previous relationship was toxic from the beginning, dukkha dukkha. But then the other relationship, at the beginning it started beautifully, but then it has the potential to become negative and eventually. Viparinama dukkha. So I'm going to introduce 3 more words here. Dukkha dukkha, viparinama dukkha, and I'll keep the last one for later. So viparinama dukkha, again in English, it's translated as suffering due to change. But that's wrong. It's wrong. All change is not suffering. For example, I have a wound in my hand. I do have a few cuts in my, here and there. When they heal, the healing is due to the changing nature of it. Is it suffering? No, I like when it's healed. Right? But I'm young, I'm active, I get old, that is change. That change is a suffering. But not every change is a suffering. So that's why this is, the word for change is called parinama. But when you put a V in front, viparinama, it means that the change in the direction that I do not wish to. Right? So again, when people loosely say all change is dukkha, that's not true. All change is not dukkha. Right? Imagine that our kids never changed. They would never be able to celebrate the Father's Day properly, like, take out you for a getting healed, yeah.
Getting healed from everything, from anything,
right,
is a change.
It's a change.
Then it's good by definition.
Right. So this is why we need to use these words, or not use, but understand this very carefully, because someone who thinks a little, especially kids, because they are so free, they think about them. So when you would say all change is wrong, they would say no, all change is not wrong. The class, I didn't like it and it's about to get over, I like it. Viparinama sukha. So we need to understand that parinama or change itself is not the problem. The change in the direction that I do not like, that is dukkha. So another way to put this is, one day there was a fish. He was freely swimming in the water, and then he saw a worm coming in, right? So he was very happy in the beginning. So this is an example which appears in the Pali Canon. So he was very happy to see the bait, but he did not understand that's a bait. So it is very happy in the beginning, but it has the potential to kill the fish, right? So the same way, this nature of the world sometimes has the positivity, the sukha. But even that sukha, when you said you should not stay there, linger over there, the problem with sukha, it has the nature to eventually become something bad that we do not like. It has the potential to be that. Now again, are we talking about a very bad word? Everything we do is wrong. Is that what we are going to discuss here? So that's the nihilistic nature of Buddhism, not the nihilistic nature of Buddhism, nihilistic interpretation of Buddhism. I'll tell you how Buddhism is different to nihilism, where everything is wrong. Sukha is wrong, dukkha is wrong. Let's go to upeksha now and see if that is wrong. So if we go to, before we go there, I happened to watch this beautiful Indian story from this guy called R.K. Narayan, a Bengali writer. One day he gets this old man, this man in a poor man in a very remote rural Indian village. He wins the lottery, right? And as the prize of the lottery, he gets a road compactor, like the big road compactors. He does not know how to drive it, so it's there, and the people now continuously nagging him, take it home, we don't want to keep it here, take it home. So he takes it there, and he was very happy in the beginning to win that prize. But since the day that he won the prize, everything goes wrong. His wife is now scolding him, you got this big road compactor, it's in the middle of the house, in the middle of my yard, remove it. And then one day it loses its brakes and goes and crashes a few houses, neighbors' houses. So misery since the day he got it. So again, it's a nice, I don't know if R.K. Narayan wrote it with that intention, but it's a nice way to explain the viparinama dukkha. It looks very nice in the beginning, but then eventually it has the potential to become negative. But the sankhara dukkha, is the most important idea and the most philosophical idea out of all, Sankhara Dukkha. Now, Sankhara means the mental activity also, the things in our mind. But then there are two categories of things in mind. There's an involuntary process of mind. If you look at the brain, literally the anatomical brain does a lot of things on its own. It regulates the breathing, it regulates the heart rate. We are not getting involved with that, it's happening there. But then we can call this natural nature of the involuntary brain sankhara. Thoughts are popping up, thoughts are coming, emotions are passing. It's a natural process. Depending on the sunlight, depending on the circadian rhythm, we feel very active to very sleepy. It has nothing to do with what we think. It's the mind, it's the automatic process, the involuntary process of mind. But upon this involuntary process, we can get involved. How? With the three unwholesome roots, with raga, dvesa, moha. Let's say that there's a I'll give you an example. That's the best way to understand this. From involuntary things in mind, involuntary process in mind, the active participation on those. Right now, we are breathing. Everyone is breathing right now. Close your eyes and try to understand your breath. Look at your breath. So I am breathing right now, and I am observing my breath. I am breathing and I am observing my breath. While I am observing my breath, I can think, I am observing this breath so I can get enlightened. I can emancipate. I can understand the nature of the mind. When I am enlightened, I can start walking on water. I can go through walls. I can perform miracles. Open your eyes now. So that is the active participation on something which is automatic. Do you understand? If you pay attention to that, I am not actively participating in it. I am just paying attention. There's a slight attention of understanding and awareness of what I am doing in my mind or in my body. But then the moment I look at it, I start building on that, fabricating on that. I have an active participation on that. Now that is called the sankhara here. In order to further distinguish the sankhara from the normal process, sometimes it's even called abhisankhara. Abhisankhara are the things that you do on top of the normal sankhara or the normal mechanics of mind. You put another layer. That layer is stemming from the three unwholesome roots, raga, dvesha and moha. Now that is the nature that is said with the sankhara dukkha. Noticing the neutrality in itself, it's neutral. Noticing our fear, anger, that noticing is neutral. Is that correct? If I notice my hand is touching an ice cube, it's very cold, but my noticing, the noticer is neutral, right? But that noticer, that sensation which is neutral, can be then interpreted and we can get actively involved with that in many ways. Oh, I love this sensation. I hate this sensation. So, like you said, ignorance creates the two sides.
When ego gets brought into it.
Ego gets brought into it.
These cliches, I learned them as for me, against me, I don't care.
Right.
And so I'm bringing ego into these
Into
cliches,
that, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it becomes attachment.
Very good. That's a very good way of
Whereas if
putting
I'm
it.
just observing them,
Yes, yes.
it's neutrality.
It's a very good way to put that. For me, I don't like it and I don't care.
Correct.
Right?
I don't care.
I don't care. I'm not actively involved.
Rooster form.
Correct. But still that I don't care can be based on a wrong understanding.
True.
Ignorance. Right?
You know, if this sentence starts with an I, it's wrong. It's some sort of misunderstanding of reality.
Right. That's the next slide. Anatta. Let me get to that. So we have dukkha in this form. So it's way beyond the normal understanding of pain. Pain is only one side. There's only positivity. But even within this positivity, there's this nature that it could transform into something that I do not wish, viparinama, change into something that I do not like. Even if I can observe the very neutral, automatic, involuntary process of mind, my mind has the potential to build a layer on top of that based on the ignorance I have, and then take it to any side that I wish. So based on that, we could have a positive world or a negative world. It's still stemming from a wrong foundation. So that's why this sankhara is also called the conditional things or fabrications. We build things on a false foundation or a wrong foundation. We do things thinking it's going to help us. If you can remember when we were discussing about anger, the only way a person knows how to get out of anger is to be happy. In order to be happy, you need to find something which makes you happy. So you keep associating that thing which makes you happy, eventually that is going to make you angry. You see, so you start it based on ignorance and then you go a whole cycle. So that is what is meant here with dukkha. But let me go to the next one quickly. Anatta. That's a very deep idea. In fact, I would say 90% of the Buddhists also don't agree with this idea. Right? So this ship, this picture of ship is actually called the Theseus ship. It's a Hellenic story, Greek story. There was this guy called Theseus. He was the son of Poseidon. So he had a ship. Basically, a thought experiment was, so Theseus' ship was docked in Athens, port of Athens. So it was there for some time, and then after some time the sail was torn, so they replaced the sail. And after some time the sail was okay, but the mast was getting rotten away, so they replaced the mast. And then they had to replace the hull, they had to replace everything. So they kept replacing things, but still it's called the Theseus ship. Is it really the Theseus ship? Right? So that is a fantastic anecdote to talk about the idea of anatta. The main idea, one of the main ideas of anatta is non-soulness. Now, in order to understand this, we need to understand the opposite of this, soul. So Buddha, again, Rodrigo mentioned that the other day, Buddha, when he appeared in a backdrop of strong belief of a Atman. Atman means a soul, the existence of non-changing, non-transforming soul.
Some sort of
Essence, yeah. Soul, essence, chi. Chi is also another name for that. In Chinese, chi, Q-I, chi. So chi, essence, soul, Atman.
Right. K-I, no, Q-I.
Q-I.
Oh.
Q-I, chi.
Q-I, chi.
Yeah. So this is a gong here. Gong means in Chinese to expand. So qi gong is to expand your essence or develop your essence, right? Qi gong. So in this, again, if you look at pretty much all the major religions in the world, there is a belief of a soul which is unchanging. The soul has the original nature. So if you take the classic Hinduism, there's a soul which is called Atman and Paramatman. The ignorance according to Hinduism is that you misinterpret your soul as the body or the mind. They are not soul. It is something even beyond. So your body, if someone interprets body as soul, that's absolutely wrong. And whenever the body changes, you are upset because of that. But the soul is not upset. Soul has nothing to do with it. People misinterpret mind as soul. Mind is also not soul. Mind is different. But soul is something sitting, when I say sitting, not really sitting, but it's something beyond that. So you remove the body, you remove the mind, then you have the core, the essence, the chi, called the soul. So this is the idea which was very prevalent in Buddha's time, but not all Hindus, when I say Hindus, the entirety of the Vedic scholars, they did not equally agree with this idea. But the majority agreed. There were a few who said, well, there's absolutely nothing called soul. That idea of soul is absolute wrong. There's no soul in the world. So one guy was called Charvaka. He's a philosopher. Charvaka said, there's nothing called soul. So he did a very, he did a experiment for that. He took a person, I'm sure that it was a voluntary person. He took that person, put that person inside a clay pot, sealed the pot, measured the weight, and then he put the pot on fire, let that person die, and then measured the weight. He wanted to see if the soul left his body, has the weight dropped down. Right? It's a very cruel experiment, but they went into that extent to prove these things. So he said this idea of soul is absolute garbage. There's nothing called soul. So Buddha said, well, I'm not saying either. I'm only refuting the idea of a permanent unchanging soul. I'm also refuting Charvaka's idea of no soul. So then what are you saying? Right? So then we need to understand what is anatta in Buddhism. So again, it's mentioned as no soulness in many English translations, but that's absolutely wrong. It does not say no soul. That's what Charvaka said. And what people usually say is there is a soul, unchanging soul. Nichyato sassato duo aviparinama dhammo, which aviparinama, it is a never changing, never evolving, a continuous soul is there. That was the main idea. Buddha refuted that. And there's this beautiful Upanishad philosophy, I really like it, called Samkhya, which is sort of the beginning of yogic philosophy. Samkhya said, well, there's the true soul, true Atman, is the witnessing consciousness. Now again, I find this in Buddhism, some people think witnessing consciousness is the ultimate thing. That is the Atman. And they even say in Buddhism, this is what we are talking about. Witnessing consciousness, being mindful, that thing which is mindful of, that is the ultimate nature. But according to Buddhism, that's also wrong, because Buddha said, well, that is also conditional observation. Even that is not permanent. So then this idea of no soul is there, and the way to deconstruct that is the idea of the 5 aggregates. So Buddha puts things into 5 heaps, 5 baskets, aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Even that witnessing consciousness is also a conditional thing. Even that is subjected to change. So let's go back to the first slide. Rupam bhikkave aniccham. On the bottom, Vedana is also anicca. Sensations are also anicca. Sanya, the distinctions are also anicca. Sankhara, mental formations are also anicca. Vijnana, that thing which is witnessing, that is also anicca. Hence it is dukkha. Hence it is anatta. Therefore, you cannot truly say that is me, this is mine, or this is myself. Anatta. So no soul is one idea, because this idea of a soul which transmigrates beyond your life was a very common idea. It is a still very common idea. In fact, if you ask a typical Buddhist would say, well, I'm going to die here and then going to get reborn somewhere else. Right? That's the typical idea of soulness. So then Buddha has a fundamental argument against this. Well, that is not what I'm preaching. I'm not preaching a reincarnating self. Right? I'm not, because if you are to reincarnate, something from you has to go there. Right? One could say, well, it's not, it's a stream of consciousness which goes there. In fact, one of the Buddhist monks at the Buddha's time, he said, the consciousness is what goes from one body to the next reincarnated body. Buddha said, Buddha used the word moha purusha. Moha with the pig, stupid person. I did not say something like that. I haven't even said that the consciousness is going to go like that. So why don't we call consciousness Atman then? That is not what I meant. I know a lot of Buddhists, they believe that the last thought is what goes to the next life. That thought will go, it will be the one which links this life to the other life. So that notion of continuity of something even if it's a stream of consciousness, even if it's something material, a chi, an essence, it's not the idea of Buddhism. But then if we going to forget the transmigratory nature of one birth to the other birth, we have no way of really understanding it or even proving it. Usually, we don't have a way of proving that. Proving it or disproving it, both. We don't have a way of proving it, we don't have a way of disproving it. But how about the self right now? Right now, I have a self. Right? So, this famous philosopher Rene Descartes, when he did this experiment on thought experiment, he was a skeptic. So, he started being skeptical about many things. Am I a man or a woman? What is man and woman? So he started doubting that, and then he saw that it's a construct. But then one thing he could not deconstruct is the feeling, is the sensation that I am here. Therefore, he concluded in his thesis, therefore I am. Ergo ego sum in Latin. So the me right now is an undeniable thing that we are experiencing. So on the vipassana is now to see, is again there a true self, or is this self also some sort of an illusion? We are not going to get into any conclusion yet, but we are checking if it's right or wrong. A way to explain that, we can have a fan with blades. If it's spinning so fast, it would not be seen as a blade, a few blades, it will be seen as a disc. When we look at the wind generators, we see the 3 blades of the fan. But if assume that it's revolving, the RPM is so high, we won't see 3 blades. We will see one big disc, right? So it is nature of self. Is it also an occurrence of 5 aggregates happening so fast? So it looks like a self. But is there a true self? Or is this idea of self is sort of illusory? Idea of self we can equate to this other thing called the controllability, because the sense of self has a lot to do with the controllability. I don't call America mine because I don't have a control over that, but I probably call Canada mine because I can influence Canada. But I don't call Saskatchewan or Quebec mine, we call Ontario mine, because it's the province that we live in. We are residents of Ontario. But we can't control North York, Markham, Scarborough. We are more into Cambridge, Waterloo, KW. But even within KW, I'm more in control of the neighborhood. Within the neighborhood, I'm more in control of the house that I own. That I can control, I can exercise control. More than the house, I'm in control of my own clothes that I wear. I'm in control of my body, I'm in control of my mind. So, me and mine, self, has a lot to do with the controllability. So, another way to look at it is that we do have a controllability, but do we have 100% controllability? So, if we do not have 100% controllability, is there a true me? Or is there an automatic me? So then the final idea is no essence, no chi. But then again, in Buddhism, we find the practice of chi because it's mixed with Taoism and Taoism mainly. In Taoism, we are talking about chi, but that's very different to Buddhism. So they might look very similar, but in the core, they are also sort of very different nuanced ideas. So what does no essence means? One thing it could mean is that there's no true nature of self. That nature is always conditional. There's nothing truly you bring from one place to the other. We call, I'll take Rodrigo, baby Rodrigo, infant, toddler Rodrigo, right? From that time, what are we truly bringing to the adult person? Is there something truly we are bringing from that to this? Are we bringing the bones? No, the bones get refreshed, they change. Is there anything that we are truly bringing in? Everything is changing, including our memories, including our physical cells. They are always replenishing. The blood is replenishing, the oxygen, carbon, everything is replenishing. So it's like the Theseus ship. We have never truly brought anything from that to this. But then we have the idea We have this ignorant idea that something really came, something really transferred. So that's one connotation of essence. But the other connotation of essence is that there's no true meaning to any of those. Now, which falls very closely to nihilism. Nihilism means that nothing is so important. But again, if we look at that, is it really important? Now, we might be having so much of thought in our mind. We are important people, we are not important people, we have this and that. But is it important to the beaver in that lake? To who is that important? Is it important to everyone in this universe, in this world? Like, we will feel so important about our interactions with another person, but is it important to our neighbor who has only seen me once? Not very much. Would the walnut tree outside, for that walnut tree, is all this humanity's activity, is it important? So this self-importance that we give, this feeling of meaning that we give, is it really meaningful? Or is it just, you are here for a period of time? I was talking to someone who has lost their parent yesterday. I asked the question, do you remember your great-grandfather? At that room, there were 30 people. No one remembered their great-grandfather. Most of them remembered their grandfather, but great-grandfather, you do not remember. Great-great-grandfather, no one remembers. So if no one remembers, as if he has not existed. Is there true meaning to whatever thought, emotions that went in his mind? From where we are sitting, it doesn't matter. So what I am going through in my mind, everything in my mind, the knowledge, the philosophy, the emotions, are they really meaningful to the world? Maybe not. They are probably very meaningful and important to me, but in true sense, it's not very meaningful. But then this again falls very close to the idea of nihilism. But maybe on a next day, I will tell why this is different to nihilism. Nihilism says that nothing is important, go commit suicide. There's no point of your life. That is nihilism, the negative nihilism. But Buddhism is not trying to say, or Buddha is not trying to say, this is extremely unuseful, meaningless, go die. That's not the idea. It's just telling you that, when you go on the road, when you go on 401, some places you find that the deer can jump in, moose can jump in to the highway. Now, that is the nature of the moose and the deer. It's not a problem with the road builder. So the road builder is only stating a fact. The moose could jump. That's it. He's not controlling the moose. So the same way, Buddha is just the interpreter of Dhamma. He's not the owner of Dhamma. He's not God Almighty. He did not decide on all this. He just saw this and he's telling this. So he's just telling, whatever you give a lot of meaning, if you really look at it, it's not very meaningful. It's meaningful to you, but to a person that don't know you, a beaver or a walnut tree, it's not very meaningful. All the meanings we give, flowers, red color, brown color, monk, venerated person, unuseful person, they are all thoughts in someone's mind. It passes away, few generations, no one even remembers that thought, right? So that is anatta. So is it really worth being so stressed out, being so discontent and unhappy to this useless thing, anatta? So that's the idea of anicca, dukkha, anatta. It's a very profound idea. We can keep going for a long period of time, but then we'll conclude and we'll check the nature of dependent arising next week. In order to further explain this, we need the dependent arising. So we find 2 or 3 few important concepts, the 5 aggregate concept and the dependent arising concept, to explain the anicca, dukkha and anatta, the 3 marks of existence. If you explain the 3 marks of existence, it's pretty much the 4 noble truths also. They are very sort of intertwined, interlinked. They're the same thing in different formats. Let's put our hands together and then let's reflect that we are going to not believe in these things, but we are going to explore the idea of anicca, dukkha, anatta. And we are also not going to conclude the few definitions that we got compared to maybe one definition we had in the beginning. Anicca is impermanent, dukkha is suffering, anatta is no soul. We went way beyond those 3 ideas we found a multifaceted nature of these ideas. But even these few ideas that we learn today, we are not going to get ourselves confined. But we are going to explore the anicca, dukkha, anatta, the involuntary nature of our mind, the sankhara, and our active participation on that with the three unwholesome roots of lobha, dvesha, moha. We are going to understand that, and we are going to help whoever who's in need to liberate themselves from these three unwholesome roots. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta.